Ladies and gentlemen, we are back. It is the 4-3 show. I am your host, Ryan Blank. I'm only alongside Dominic and Parker today because Pat is at some concert. But boys, how are we doing?
I'm doing great. Schoolwork is a lot, but so is football. So I think we're just ready for that. And hopefully our teams will make us happy this year and we'll get to enjoy a good football season.
Forgot I was muted at first, but that worked out anyway. Going last, doing pretty good. School's already at its breaking point, which is a really bad sign with how early we are into the semester. But we're just getting through as best we can, and looking forward to the NFL season. Hopefully, things in Denver are better than they have been in years past.
Yeah, I'm happy to be back. School is starting to kill me a little bit. The bureau's really hitting me hard, but happy to be back. Just to let everyone know, we will be back in studio on Blaze Radio on Mondays from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Tonight, we just want to put out a preview show like we do every year, knowing that we are not in studio tonight. So just to put that out there for everyone. Now, guys, I know this show is not going to be as fun because Pat's not here and he likes to bring some comedic relief. But who's excited for football? What are you guys most looking forward to for this season?
Well, so this past weekend we got to watch some college football, and I think we were all reminded of how much the fans impact the game. And I think the fans impact the game more in college than they do in NFL just because the students, along with alumni, the combination of that is really hard to match. But I'm excited to see how home field advantages, are brought back into the scheme of things, how traveling on the road is brought into things, how the training camp and just the extra practices and less COVID protocols are going to impact these teams. I'm super excited. I think it's going to be a really fun year.
Yeah, the fan aspect's going to be fun to see that back again. The whole COVID situation, as far as, there being either no fans or limited capacity anywhere from 15 to 20, 25%, it's just not the same. So getting full capacity is going to be awesome. Seeing the atmospheres, like Dom mentioned, in college football has already been really sick so far. I've absolutely loved that. It's probably been one of the more underrated aspects that I've been watching and enjoying the most. So I'm excited to see these NFL stadiums filled up. Home field advantage is finally back. Of course, travel was still some sort of advantage, but home field advantage is back, and that is huge. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out for some of these teams.
Yeah, I'm excited to have full capacity back in stadiums. I think that is something that was really missed last year, how they still need some to input that fake crowd noise despite having anywhere between 15 to 20,000 fans. So I'm excited to have all those fans back. But I'm also excited to see a lot of key guys return from injury like Von Miller, Saquon Barkley, and Dak Prescott. That's what I'm really looking forward to. It's teams who are starting out the year healthy because we haven't seen a lot of these guys in a while. So I want to start out. Let's go with our record predictions. And we're going to start off in the NFC North. Dom, who do you have winning the NFC North, and what are your standings 1 through 4?
So once again, all the Green Bay Packers on top of this division for the third straight year. I think that the defense is solid. The offense is obviously one of the best in the league with Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Jones, and Devontae Adams. I think the Green Bay Packers end up going 12 and 5. Sorry, the math is it's still getting used to now that there's a 17-week season. But I think Green Bay Packers go 12 and 5. I think they're comfortably in a playoff spot, and I think they're a really talented team this year.
All right. For me, for the NFC North, I also have Green Bay winning that division. I could see it being a race between them and the Vikings. I'm not as huge on them like I know some people are. I know that the talent's definitely there. That O-line's still an issue. That's kind of been that identity of that team for a while. They've had some good defenses over the last couple of years, and ultimately that O-line's never really been there, especially when it comes to pass blocking. Run blocking, it's fine. They have Dalvin Cook, who's a monster, and they're able to get the job done. They'll be able to put up some points, but ultimately I think the Packers have the more complete roster on both ends, and I think ultimately while it could come down to the last couple games of the season and those matchups between each other will be big and have huge implications, I do think the Packers still win this one with Aaron Rodgers being back and things being settled there in Green Bay for this season at the least.
Yeah, I have the Packers winning this division as well. I think this team is the most complete team in this division. When on paper, they got one of the best corners in the league. They've got a great duo on defense with the Smith duo. And then you also have to think about that offense when you got the reigning NFL MVP, top 3 wide receiver. They've got so much talent everywhere. So I've got the Packers winning this division and going 12-5. Dom, I want to go to you. Who do you have taking second? Who do you have taking third? And who do you have finishing last in the division?
So, I mean, I think this is going to be the pretty standard layout for this division, as it was last year. Minnesota, Chicago, and then Detroit. Or did Chicago finish in front of Minnesota last year? It was close. Anyways, Detroit's in last. Minnesota's in second. I think most people are going to have that. And then the Chicago Bears are going to finish in third. I think that the Bears and Vikings are going to be hovering around 500 for the majority of the year. And the Detroit Tigers are going to be in competition in like the top 5 picks. There's not
I think you meant Detroit Lions, not Tigers.
Oh, I said Tigers. Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry, I meant Detroit Lions.
Yeah, both Detroit teams are not very good. So if they don't get the proper respect, don't get too upset, people of Detroit.
They're both cats. Like
they're similar. They're close. For me, yeah, I have, like I said, Minnesota being the runner-ups in this division and being a playoff team. As for the other two, with Chicago and Detroit, I don't see those teams being very competitive. Not in this division, at least. I see the Bears being third and the Lions being fourth. There was some optimism after the draft and some moves that Detroit had made, having a good O-line, making these huge moves. But Penei Sewell, and I know preseason's not the end of the world, right? Don't go crazy. Take it with a grain of salt. But he looked really bad, and that's concerning because that looked like an incredible pick. I love that pick. That was one of my favorites of the draft. I thought Detroit hands down had one of the better drafts this year, and that didn't look good. So I don't know if Detroit's going to, tamper with him and ruin his career or anything, but it didn't look very positive. So I don't see this team doing too much. They're not going to win many games, and really it's just a 2-team race, like I said.
Yeah, I have second going Vikings, third being the Bears, and then last place being the Lions. I think the Vikings are actually going to be a wild card team. I know I'm skipping ahead to what we're going to talk about later, but they've got the talent on offense. They've got a great wide receiver duo. They've got a top tier running back, and Kirk Cousins. He has weapons. He'll be solid. I think he'll be fine. Defense is a lot of talent, especially at the linebacker position. They just locked up Anthony Harris to a long-term deal, and they had Patrick Peterson to be a veteran guy at corner. So I think that team is going to make a run for the playoffs. I have them finishing 10-7. I have the Bears going 7-10, and I have the Lions going 4-13. Sorry, that is me in a fantasy draft. Yeah, what a horrible time to do a fantasy draft.
Is that draft like number 12? Like how many?
Hey, no, it's draft number 5. Draft number 5.
Oh man,
that's just.
You see, I got sucked in the leagues a few times, and then I just saying, I'll redo it.
Today alone, I was asked from a friend to do one, and it's like the third or fourth time I've just said no, because like I just know that like in years past I have gotten sucked in, and it's just I'm not going to manage more than one league. It's just not worth it. So
see, I think it's so much easier to manage more than one league when it comes to fantasy football because you don't have to do it every single day compared to me having multiple fantasy baseball teams. So
well, yeah, it's
that's the view that I have on it. But
any other fantasy sport is definitely more work as far as setting lineups. But it's just like just focus on one team, go all in, see how that goes. There's no reason to jam it up with a bunch of others.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the NFC South. Who do we have taking this division? Even though it's pretty clear cut who's going to take it.
Yeah, I mean Tampa Bay. I think everyone's going to have them on top. They're one of the best teams in football, obviously, because they won the Super Bowl last year. And unprecedentedly, they've returned all 22 of the 22 starters from that Super Bowl team. So I think that they're the easy favorites here in this division, considering some of the players the Saints lost, especially at quarterback. They're going to have a fairly easy track to winning the NFC South.
Yeah, same here for me. And that's the thing. A lot of teams, they go on to win the Super Bowl one year. The following season, it's extremely difficult to repeat. It's only been done like no, I'm thinking at the top of my head, like 7 or 8 times. So statistically, the odds are never in a team's favor to do it again. But when you return all 22 starters, it's like, well, I mean, that definitely helps because I can't imagine there's many of those teams that have accomplished it. They're able to do such a feat in the offseason the following year because that's extremely difficult to bring all those pieces back. So we can expect that team to be legit. They always say there could be some regression. Maybe there is, but even if there is, they're still clearly the best team in this division. This is probably the most lopsided division. I don't see any of those other 3 teams having any shot at it. So they're going to walk away with it pretty early on.
Yeah, I think this is the Bucks division. They're the best team. They return all their starters from the Super Bowl. And like you said, the division rivals that they have got weaker compared to who they were competing with, mainly at the Saints. But also the Falcons got weaker, and the Panthers aren't there yet. They got a new quarterback, but we don't know what to think of Sam Darnold until he actually throws a pass in a regular season game for them. But I'm going to have the Buccaneers taking this and going 13-4. Dom, going back over to you, how do you see the rest of this division rounding out?
So, I mean, I'm going to have New Orleans finishing in second place. I think they finish over 500, and I think they're a team that kind of surprises some people. I think that a lot of people have just sold all their Saints stock after their last couple of years, not really delivering in the postseason. And then now that Drew Brees is gone and Jameis Winston's coming in, everyone's like, they'll be below 500. But I think this is a team that could finish above 500, 9-8, 10-7 maybe. And then Carolina in third, and then followed by Atlanta. I think they're 2 talented teams that could push up towards 500 if all the players play to their potential. But I don't see that happening. I think they finish like that.
For me, I have what I think most people consider a big shocker. I mean, this is a bad division. Keep in mind, again, those other 3 teams don't really have much of a shot at all. As ridiculous as that may sound, it's the truth. So I actually have Carolina being second in this division. Again, it's by a huge margin. They'll at no point have any shot at winning it, and that'll never become a conversation. But I think that bringing Sam Darnold, seeing the weapons that he's going to have over there, it's going to translate to some winning. All he had was the poverty franchises, the New York Jets. He had absolutely nothing. And I think that you give him some stuff and some good things are going to happen. We're going to see some flashes. That O-line's still pretty atrocious. That's going to probably hold this team back, but I see them being like a 9-8, maybe an 8 or 9, but still getting second in this division with how weak it is. I see the Saints being a 7-10 team. For me, when I was looking at them, they range anywhere from 7 to maybe 9 or 10 wins if they hit their peak. I don't have them doing that. That's why I have them at 7-10, being the 3rd team in this division. Jameis Winston's a very interesting quarterback. He has all the talent in the world. You don't get picked first overall without having that talent. I just don't know if I trust what they're going to have with that receiving core. Michael Thomas isn't going to be back for a little while. Marcus Callaway's their number 1. He's one of those sleep guys, and that's not really ideal for the supporting cast that he's going to have going into the year. And they had to get rid of a lot of guys. There were cap casualties. The team's not built to win more than that many games in my mind. And then there's the Falcons, who finished last in this division and are at the bottom of the barrel. There's not too much to go around with this team. And, this is nothing new with them. After that Super Bowl run they went on, they've been going downhill since. They're going to continue that downhill spiral.
For me, I'm going to agree with Dom. I think that this Saints team still has a lot of talent. They made a couple acquisitions at corner. They got Bradley Roby, then they added Desmond Trufant. They're trying to help that secondary. And then they still got Demario Davis, and they still have Cameron Jordan. So I think that the defense will be just fine. The offense, there's a lot of worries without Michael Thomas for at least the first 3 weeks. And then the depth at wide receiver also takes a hit. But I still think that they're going to finish in second around 9-8. Third place, I'm going to have the Panthers. That defense last year, really young defense, showed a lot of potential. So I really like that defense. I think Sam Darnold will have a better year. I think he's with a better team. He's back with Robbie Anderson, so I think that's going to have a positive effect on him.
Better coaching.
Yeah, that's very true. Way better coaching with Matt Rule. So I think they're going to finish around 7-10, 8-9. And then lastly, I got the Falcons. That team's going to finish 5-12. Horrible defense, lost their top target. So I think they're going to get last in the division. Now let's move over to Dom's division, the NFC West. Dom, this division is a dogfight. How do you see it shaking out?
Well, so I mean, I do have the Los Angeles Rams, my favorite team, finishing in first place. But I mean, in all reality, like if any one of these teams finishes in first place, I don't think anyone should act shocked because all four of these teams are super talented, talented defense, talented offenses, talented quarterbacks. It's all there in this division. And to me, it feels like the Rams have the least amount of holes in this division. That's why I put them at first. In second, I also felt like the Cardinals had the least amount of holes with the exception of the Rams. So I put them in there at second place. We saw how good they were before Kyler Murray got hurt on Thursday Night Football against the Seahawks. And after that, the team just kind of like lost its life. And their only two remaining wins the rest of the year were against NFC East opponents. In third, I have the San Francisco 49ers. I really think that all this team is missing is a quarterback. And we saw in 2019 how good Jimmy Garoppolo can be when he stays healthy. It's not great, but it's certainly not bad. It's good. And if they can get good out of Jimmy Garoppolo or if they get good out of Trey Lance, I think that they're going to be really good. Third place, still in the playoffs there. And in fourth place, I think Seattle. Listen, the defense, it's still shaky. They have Russell Wilson. They have a really good offense. But the defense, it's got a lot of question marks. They do have some really talented players on that defense. But it's really hard to put the Seahawks in there at fourth place because they're still going to be a good team. But that's just how good this division is. And I think it's going to be a rock fight. Whichever coaching staffs, that have seen each other a lot could be able to game plan for each other the best could be the teams that win this division.
All right. And for me, I also have the Rams at the top of the division. I have them going 12-5. This is a really talented team. And the way I look at it is they did lose some guys on defense, but that defense is still going to be really good. And at the end of the day, they upgraded pretty heavily at quarterback. Being able to get Matthew Stafford is a huge upgrade over Jared Goff. That goes a long way. Having a good quarterback is crucial in this division with how many good ones there are. And I think that this team is definitely going to have a really high ceiling and a pretty high floor as well. I see them winning this division in what's going to be the most competitive one in football. Then after that, I would probably have to go with – it's so tough. This is the toughest division for a reason. I'm so back and forth between the Cardinals and the Niners. I'm going to stick with the Niners at second in the division, but I could see it going either way. The quarterback play definitely goes to Arizona because the uncertainty with Jimmy G and Trey Lance and whether or not he'd come in, and even if he did come in, whether or not he'd perform well as a rookie. But I still think that there's a lot to like with the rest of that roster. So whatever they do, we know that they can go pretty far. They can make the playoffs and see what they do from there because with Jimmy G, this team has shown they're capable of getting to the Super Bowl and almost winning one. So I think you still have to give them the benefit of the doubt at the end of the day to be second in this division. Third would be the Arizona Cardinals right behind them. And again, it seems weird putting Seattle fourth in the division because being last in this division is not like being last in pretty much any other division in football because it is a dogfight. These teams are insane. Russell Wilson in that offense is going to be really good, but that defense scares me. And while offenses can win a lot of regular season games, I'm a big believer in that. I just have them on the outside looking in, and I have them at fourth, and then the Cardinals with Kyler Murray in that bunch just seem more balanced on both ends, so it seems easier to put them in that third spot.
For me, I have the Rams winning this division. I think this team is the most complete team with the least amount of holes. They finally responded to their top weakness at quarterback by getting a guy like Matthew Stafford. They still got a lot of talent at wide receiver. Even though they did lose Cam Akers, I still think Darrell Henderson and Sony Michel could be a very good duo out of the backfield for them. The defense, yeah, they lost John Johnson, which I think is a big loss, but this is still a top-tier defense in the league, especially when you've got arguably the best defensive player of all time in Aaron Donald leading that defense. So I have them winning this division at 12-5. I have the 49ers getting second. I think that defense is just going to do whatever it takes to win to win them games despite their quarterback issues. So I think that despite whoever their quarterback is, I think that the 49ers are going to get second in this division at 11-6. Third place, I have the Seahawks. I think this team's offense is too good to lose to get fourth place in this division, despite how big of a dogfight it is. They've got a great offense, and I think that defense is going to be more improved than we think. I think that you still have to look at, yeah, Jamal Adams, you can make the argument, is like a linebacker. He has less career interceptions than Vince Wilfork. I know. We've talked about this multiple times. They've still got Bobby Wagner. I still think that the defense, it's not a good defense, but I think it's one that could be around the 20 to 23rd best defense. And you saw that could get them into the playoffs and win them games. So I have them finishing 10-7. And then I can't believe I'm putting the Cardinals last, but I have so many questions about that defense and that offensive line. That offensive line is really weak. The defense in the secondary outside of Buda Baker is really, really questionable, especially when you have Byron Murphy leading that secondary. I don't know if he's ready to do that quite yet. JJ Watt is a huge question mark. Hasn't really practiced much. Didn't even play in the preseason. So I think that's another question mark for them as well. So I have them finishing at 9-8. And lastly, let's go over to the NFC East, or what we like to call the NFC least. Dom, take it away.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in the Washington football team this year. I think you're looking at potentially the best defense in all of football. And what I think could be
Foster?
No, Reuben Foster is not playing for the Washington football team this year. I was 1 year early. Now, I know that since the turn of the century, no team has won this division 2 years in a row. And I think that could change this year. I think you're looking at a team that actually improved in the football team. And I think that with Ryan Fitzpatrick, they could get some more consistency out of their quarterback play than what they had last year. Still not going to be great, but when you have the league's best defense potentially, with Chase Young as a baller, I think that Washington can win it. I also have the Dallas Cowboys making the playoffs. They could have the league's best offense, but I think they're still going to have one of the worst defenses in the league. Glad they finally drafted defense instead of drafting a wide receiver when they already had a really good wide receiving core. But Dallas in at second, the Giants at third. Their defense is going to be good, but the offense just has so many question marks. I like that they're trying to add weapons with Kadarius Toney and Kenny Galladay, but the fact of the matter is if your quarterback stinks, it's not going to really matter that much. Same with the offensive line. That play at practice is going to stick in my mind forever, where they rushed 5 on defense and the linebacker came free and he just had to peel off because you're not going to hit the quarterback. Daniel Jones made a really awkward throw, threw it straight to a defender's face, and it just hit the defender straight in the hands. It was 3 just total botches by 3 separate players. And it is kind of going to feel like what this Giants season could feel like. And then at the Eagles, they're going to be healthier this year, but I just don't think that there's too much talent there on that offense. Sanders is good, but the wide receiving core still isn't great. You're looking at wide receiver 1 being your rookie and Devonta Smith. And while he's probably going to be good for them this year, I just don't think that poses for a lot of success. And then the defense has some question marks as well. So the Eagles in last.
Yeah, this is a division where it's not a very good one. It's not particularly strong. It's funny, going from NFC West to NFC East because they're completely opposites. And this one, though, while the Seahawks philosophy I just had, and this was one of the biggest dilemmas with, creating my division winners and my rankings, is I had Seattle, being on the outside looking in, having a not so good record, being at the bottom of the division. And the logic would seem flawed because that same logic is, the offense is really good over there in Dallas, and I have them winning the division because that defense over there is just as bad as the Seahawks, if not worse. And ultimately, somehow, I still find them winning this division with a 12-5 record. That team has an insane offense. They're benefiting from being in a completely different division where they're going to pick up some wins against the Giants and the Eagles. Those games against Washington are going to be pretty good because I have these two teams pretty high up there. But I do see them winning it at the end of the day. Then there's the Washington football team. That defense has been brewing. They've been making this for the last couple of years. They've been devoting so many high first-round, second-round picks for this defense. They bring in Jamin Davis, talented linebacker out of Kentucky. It just seems like the pieces are falling in place for this to be a top-5 defense again this year. And the ceiling is really so high when you got guys like him, Chase Young, Payne. There's just – that D-line is insane. But the offense for them is definitely more of a question mark. Defenses will definitely get you further in the playoffs and is what one of the things I would say is a good quality with this team once they get there. But offenses typically win more in the regular season, and I see that playing out in this division. Then third's the Giants. They do have an improved defense. They gave Daniel Jones some weapons. I just simply don't trust him. I don't trust that O-line. I don't trust if Saquon can stay healthy because, should those guys stay healthy, they've got some good weapons. But ultimately, they're going to fall short. They're going to be a below 500 team, and I see them finishing below those two teams I just mentioned. And then there's the Eagles. This is a team I can be pretty wrong on. I have them being fourth in the division with a very poor record of only just 3 wins and 14 losses. I could totally see a situation where they play higher than that. They play better. They're much better than that record. I wouldn't be entirely surprised, but ultimately, I don't see them doing too much. The quarterback situation is interesting. Hurts is going to be the starter. They brought in Minshew. There just seems like a lot of weird things going on over there. There's not too much to like.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with Parker on this one. I have the Cowboys winning this division. I know that defense is still not good, but I really trust that offense, especially with Dak coming back. The offensive line is pretty much healthy outside of Zach Martin being on the COVID list, but he'll be healthy throughout the rest of the season. So I trust that you're going to see a bounce back year from Zeke as well, that Dak is back, and a healthy offensive line as well. So I trust that offense to get them a lot of wins. I have them going 11-6. I'm sorry, this is the last round, I promise. I have the football team getting second in the division. I have them going 9-8. My issue is the offense. I don't know how much I can trust that offense. That defense, I believe, is a top 5 defense. It's just the offense is a real worry of mine. Third place, I have the Giants. I don't trust the offensive line. Oh, my gosh. Make my pick? Fine. Fine. Gosh. I'm trying to do – now I'm done.
Who'd you take?
What was that? The Giants. Oh, it was the last round. I took my kicker. I took Robbie Gould.
Nice.
Yeah, so third place, I have the Giants. I don't trust that offensive line. I think Daniel Jones is not a good quarterback. So I think that this team, despite adding to that defense and then getting Kenny Golladay and Kadarius Toney, I still think they fall short of the playoffs at 7-10. And then I have the Eagles going 4-13. They're going to be healthier this year. The offensive line, I think, will be fine. It's just I don't trust their wide receiver core, and that defense is just not that good. So I have them finishing last. That concludes the NFC. Let's move over to the AFC, and let's start in the AFC North. Dom, how do you see this division panning out throughout the season?
So the AFC North is another one of those divisions that has some really good teams, and then, of course, there's the Cincinnati Bengals who are going to not be good again this year, and frankly, they just don't know what they're doing up there. First place, Cleveland Browns. I think that I liked a lot of the team's offseason additions. You guys know me, Rams fan. Love John Johnson. Was the leader for the secondary of the best defense in the NFL last year. Now he's in a Browns uniform. I think that's going to really help the defense take another step to the next level and boost that secondary. Myles Garrett's a Defensive Player of the Year candidate. It's going to be a good defense, and the offense took a lot of steps forward last year. They're also returning Odell Beckham Jr., which I don't think a lot of people are talking about. Now, Baker's numbers were better throwing away from Beckham than they were throwing to him, but I think that's because he started to mature as the year went on, and I think that you'll see some differences there. I think the Browns win this division. Second, I have Baltimore. You guys know how much I like Lamar Jackson and this Ravens team. I just think that Cleveland's a little bit better than them. And then third, I mean, the Steelers are a good team too. They won this division last year. They didn't lose a ton of players, but the defense, really good. The offense, it's still going to be good as well. They have a ton of weapons on the outside, and now they have Najee Harris, a more energized back than James Conner was last year. The offensive line still has questions, but that's why they're in third place here. And then, like I mentioned, Cincinnati, I just don't think the team build here is very good. They got a couple of good players like Jesse Bates on this team, but the offensive line stinks. They used their first-round draft pick on a wide receiver who led the preseason in drops. It was ugly. So, last place for the Bengals.
For me, it's going to be the Baltimore Ravens, and this was a toss-up. This is one of those divisions where those top two heavy hitters could go either way. It's gonna be punch for punch. It's going to come down to Week 18 for sure. I wouldn't be surprised one way or another. It's definitely a two-team race. And ultimately, I do have the Baltimore Ravens. Their roster seems to have some more depth, but if you look at both teams, they're both good on offense. They're both good on defense. They're really complete units. So I wouldn't be surprised one way or another. So no matter how it plays out, it is what it is. But I think that the big thing is for the Ravens in that offense is they brought in some guys to help Lamar. Unfortunately for him, there's been a lot of injuries. I mean, the guy that he was going to hand the ball off to with Dobbins, Rashad Bateman got hurt, who's going to be a huge receiver for him. He's going to come back pretty soon, I believe, but that's a bummer to not have him to start off the season, build some more chemistry, and kind of roll with that unit. But I do think they have some good guys. They'll get by. He's used to not having many weapons, which is kind of a plus since there are some injuries, and he knows what he can do with those guys. He's got Mark Andrews. He's got Marquise Brown. So they should be fine. And then we know how loaded that defense is. Then when it comes over to Cleveland, who's that other team, could very easily win this division with no shock there. It's weird. I got to say, it's weird when the Browns have hype going into the year, and it's legitimate hype, but that is the case. It is real. The Browns are going to be really good. I have them being a game back of the Ravens in this division. When you look at it, a lot of it falls into the hands of Baker Mayfield. Can he perform? Can he be consistent with the guys that he has? Odell's going to be back. He's going to have Jarvis. There's a ton of underrated guys. Donovan Peoples-Jones, whole lot of guys in that unit. You look at the defense, they made some big moves. They got Jock. There were some health concerns with him, but if he's able to stay healthy, hopefully he will be for his sake. That's going to be a really talented defense. You got Myles Garrett, who's always one of those Defensive Player of the Year candidates. There's a lot to like with this Browns team. Then there's third, and that's the Steelers. And this is a team where I think the big thing with the record and where I have them falling directly correlates to the two teams above them. This is a very difficult division to compete in. I see them just barely being below 500, and that seems maybe a little bit unfair because of the fact that they were a good team last year. They were one of the weirdest good teams, I have to say. Like, they were such a weird team to get a read on, but at the end of the day, you have to give them credit for being able to win those close games. That it is some sort of strength of a team to be able to do that, and that was a team that did that. I just think ultimately this year, there's a lot of things that are question marks. That offensive line, quarterback play, a lot that concerns with that offense, although they do have tons of weapons. Then there's the Bengals. There's really nothing to go into with this one. They're going to be last in this division. Poor Joe Burrow out there with no O-line and a reconstructed ACL. Hopefully he'll be able to stay healthy. That's really the only thing a Bengals fan could look forward to this year, hoping that he can stay healthy and do something with the receivers he has, because other than that, there's not too much to like.
For me, I have the Browns winning this division. I think the Browns are a more complete team than the Ravens, to be quite honest. I think that they have a better defense because of that addition of John Johnson. They have a lot more depth at defense as well. I think the offense is more well-rounded. I think they have a better offensive line. I think a lot of people are going to disagree with me on this, but despite the loss, with the loss of J.K. Dobbins, I would take the Browns rushing attack over the Ravens right now with health-wise, even though they still have Lamar, who's basically more of a runner than a passer. But I think that I trust Baker Mayfield to throw the ball more than I trust Lamar Jackson to throw the ball. So I'm going to take the Browns to win this division. Don't give me a look like that, Parker.
I wouldn't.
Those were also very interesting comments. Not sure how I feel about them.
Yeah,
I personally would trust Baker.
But I think that the personnel of the Browns offense is significantly better than that of the
I would
Ravens
agree with that. I just don't know if I'd agree with trusting Baker more. That's the question mark for the Browns. Then
second place, I do have the Ravens. I think the Ravens will still be a playoff team, but I have still some concerns on that offensive line. The offensive line took a hit last year. And then also, I just think that health-wise, they've lost two running backs now. They lost J.K. Dobbins and Justice Hill. So now it's really Gus Edwards, then Le'Veon Bell, who's signed to the practice squad. And then they just drafted Rashad Bateman, who's hurt, who's out at least the first 3 weeks. I don't think it'll be more than that. And if it is, it'll probably be 4 weeks at most, in my opinion. So I think that'll help. I personally think that the Browns are the more complete team, and that's why I have them winning this division by a game, with them going 12-5 and the Ravens going 11-6. Steelers, I have them going 9-8 and finishing in third. It's that offensive line for me. I really don't trust that offensive line. I don't know how much I trust Big Ben anymore. He's up there. He's not the same quarterback as he once was, and I just think that the defense can only get them so far, and I think they're going to take a fall back from last year. And then last, I have the Bengals. You guys know how I felt when they drafted Ja'Marr Chase. You guys know how I felt, how mad I was, because that was a horrible pick. It was a horrible pick. We'll just go with that.
Yes.
It was a horrible pick.
No other reasons, right, Ryan?
Yes,
no other reasons.
No other reasons. And then Jamar Chase did not look good in preseason. He did not look good. So I think that their drafting was subpar. And I think that if I'm Joe Burrow, I am scared for my life, for my reconstructed knee and my other knee, because that offensive line is atrocious. So I have them finishing in last. Now let's move over to the South, where two of the worst teams in the league lie. Dom, it's a two-team race. Who wins it?
Yeah, it's a two-team race. I'm going to roll with the Colts here. I don't think that's going to be the popular team here, but I think that the Colts have a much more complete team. Obviously, the offense isn't going to be as good as the Titans' offense because I think you look at it, the quarterback is better for the Titans. You look at it, the wide receivers are way better for the Titans. And you also look at it, the running back room is better for the Titans than it is for the Colts. Well, maybe not the running back room, but Derrick Henry is better than Jonathan Taylor, and Taylor's really good. So you look at it, the offense, they have the advantage there, but the Colts offensive line is really good, and their defense is far superior to that of the Titans. So I think that the Colts end up winning this division. The Titans are obviously on second, and then you're going to take the Jaguars in third, and then the Texans at fourth. The Deshaun Watson case, it's still very well up in the air, but certainly seems like he's not going to be ready to play, and because of that, I'll roll with the Jags in front of the Texans.
Yeah, this is the worst division in football. It's not very good. Ultimately, the team I have winning the division is the Titans, simply because, again, it's the Cowboys logic, which, again, makes the Seahawks not make sense. But we're going to ignore that. So it's the same as the Cowboys logic, and that's that their offense is super high-powered. A.J. Brown, you bring in Julio Jones, which I feel like, yeah, he was injured last year. He's getting up there in age, but I feel like there's a certain level of people sleeping on him because, I just feel like people are underrating how much of an asset he's going to be alongside A.J. Brown, who's one of those underrated receivers as well. I mean, he's incredible as it is. Yards after the catch, he's right up there with the best of them. Then you have Derrick Henry, who's the best pure runner in football. Tannehill throwing the ball, very consistent. There's a lot to like with that offense. The defense got a little bit better, but it is still a bit of a concern. That's the big thing holding this team back from being really good. And ultimately, I see them going 7-6, winning this division, with the Colts right on their tail at 10-7. I think that a lot of people thought that making the move at quarterback was a questionable one for them to bring in Wentz. I think he can be good. I mean, his situation in Philadelphia was not very good those last 2 years. He's battled with a lot of injuries. Of course, that's the big thing coming into this season for him, but he really didn't have much around him. Nothing was going for him over there. I think a new change of scenery can do wonders for him. I mentioned that last time we were talking about him. I see this team going 10-7 and being right behind them. They're a very balanced team, both offensively and defensively. So it makes a lot of sense why they would be the runner-ups in this division to the Titans. Then at 3, I'm in agreement with Dom. The Jaguars, they're falling there. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a really good rookie quarterback. I expect him to have a really good rookie year. We'll see what kind of records he could potentially break with the passing touchdowns. That's a very breakable record for a quarterback like him. And I do think the Jaguars are going in the right direction. Obviously, that's not even thinking about having Lawrence because, of course, that in itself is. But I think they've made some moves. The defense is slowly getting better, and they're going to be a better team the next couple of years. It's just going to take slow progression each year. So this isn't going to be their year, of course, but they'll still be third. Then there's the Texans. I have them not winning a single game. Originally, I had them winning one game because it's so easy that one team could slip up against them. But ultimately, it's kind of a fun little thing to predict a team not winning a game in case they actually don't, because that roster is really, really bad. It's atrocious. It's one of the worst rosters we've seen in a while. All that stuff going on with Deshaun, it's just not looking too good over there in Houston. So I don't see them doing too much, to say the least.
Wow. You think they're going to pull a Lions? And
I think they have a really good shot at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Lions and the Browns did it as well.
Yeah.
Can't leave them out.
Yeah.
At least the Browns turned it around.
Oh, they did. Look at them now.
Yeah.
We are.
So I have the Titans winning this division. I'm going to use the same logic that I've used with the Seahawks and the Cowboys. I have them going 11-6. Colts, my main worry is Carson Wentz. I'm happy that he's out of Philly. I think it's going to benefit him to be back with Frank Reich. It's the health. I know he's got the best offensive line he's going to play behind in his career, but you saw him have a foot injury earlier on. and then he was hit on the COVID list. I still am worried about the availability and durability of Carson Wentz. That is my main worry. And I could be 100% wrong. I think both these teams, the Titans and the Colts, are playoff teams, but I just have the Titans finishing one game above them and have the Colts going 10-7. Jaguars, I have them going 4-13. I think that offense is going to be just fine with James Robinson, Marvin Jones, DJ Chark, Laviska Shenault. I think that offense is actually going to be pretty solid. Defense, like Parker said, is slowly getting there. They still need some more pieces, but it's slowly getting there, like you said, Parker. And then the Texans, worst roster in football, in my opinion, 2-15, last place. All right, let's move over to my division. And Parker's, actually. I forgot about them for a sec. The AFC West. And I want Parker to start this time.
So, yeah, I have the Chiefs winning this one. I posted my record predictions the other day, but I'm bumping them up. I had them going 12-5. I have them going 13-4 now. It just makes more sense. Looking at the schedule that they have in place, I don't see them losing that extra game in the 17-game schedule. So I see the Chiefs winning this division. There's no shock there. It's been their division for a while, and I really don't need to go too in-depth into that because any football fan with half a brain realizes that. But I do have the Broncos finishing second to them. I predicted them to be in the playoffs last year. This was, of course, right before Von Miller went out. A lot of stuff went sideways. Cortland Sutton tore his ACL. Just about everything that could have went bad for the Broncos. That's been a common theme these last couple of years. And I'm just kind of clinging on to hope that this will be the year where that's not the case, because it's not. This is one of the most loaded defenses that they've had as a team in a while, dating back to that Super Bowl run. I think that, you look at every level of that defense, from the D-line, the edge rushers, linebacking unit, and the insanely good secondary, the best secondary in the league. This team has a relatively high ceiling. I mean, they're playing in the same division as the Chiefs, so you can only go so high. But I see this team with Teddy Bridgewater being steady Teddy. I'm not a fan of that decision to start him. And it's not like one of those things where it's like Drew's like clearly above and beyond, such a good quarterback and he should be starting. It's not like that, because he's not. Otherwise, it wouldn't have been a QB competition. They wouldn't have brought in Bridgewater. But I just think that it definitely lowers that ceiling just a bit. But it's still going to be a competitive team. I see them being in the playoffs, and it's going to come down to health at the end of the day. Then there's the Chargers. Speaking of health, this is a team that can never stay healthy, and it is the thing that's plagued them for as long as I can remember watching football. They have a good amount of talent. I mean, you look at what Herbert did last year. A lot of people are getting on his hype train. They think that he can do some good things in his second year. I'm not necessarily saying he can't. I just think that the expectations are extremely high, and it seems like they don't have great depth at any given position. They have tons of talent at those positions. You have Derwin James, who when healthy is one of those top 3 safeties. You have Joey Bosa, who's one of those top edge rushers. And there's some other pieces, of course, on the offense with Keenan Allen. But should guys not be able to stay healthy, which is kind of a lame way to go about predicting a record or to go about predicting how they fall in the division. Unfortunately for them, it just is a reality. So you have to
inevitable.
It's inevitable. Yeah, exactly. Like, you have to do it. Like, that it's a legit thing with the Chargers. Like, it's legit in a way that it isn't for any other team. So have them being third in the division. And then there's the Raiders. They could be interchangeable, I feel like. But the Raiders ultimately didn't really do too much to improve their team. I feel like Derek Carr's in a situation where he doesn't have too many guys to throw to outside of Darren Waller. Henry Ruggs is a big question mark after they took him 11th overall. I know Waller's going to absolutely ball out. That's a guarantee, assuming, of course, stays healthy, knock on wood, for Raiders fans' sake. But there just isn't too much going on for them to like them to be any higher than third or fourth in division. In this case, fourth for me.
Dom, over to you.
Yeah, I'm going to have the same order here as Parker. The Chiefs, it's really hard to not go with them. In at first, best quarterback in NFL, Patrick Mahomes, he's a beast. And newly revamped offensive line. I'm not sure how it's going to look at the beginning of the season, but for the Chiefs' sake, they're going to beat the average to below average teams very handily. It's whether or not they can get over those good teams at the beginning of the year. They're going to make the playoffs. They're going to win the division, and the offensive line is going to be clicking come postseason time. Second, I have the Broncos. Really like this defense. It was good last year with Von Miller out. Von Miller comes back, also bringing one of the best corners in football in Kyle Fuller, and they also draft the top corner from this draft in Patrick Surtain. I think it's going to be a really good defense. They're also returning Justin Simmons. It's going to be really good. In the offense, it's going to be league average to possibly slightly above average. Teddy Bridgewater brings a high floor, but a low ceiling. And if he can just not turn the ball over, keep the defense off the field, so that way when they're on the field, they're arrested and they can do their work, it's going to be a tough team to beat. Third, it's the Chargers. Listen, this team's cursed. Like, I watched it with my own eyes for so many years. Just talent every single year. Every single year, people say it's their year. And guess what? It never has been. Herbert, get the excitement around him. Big, tall quarterback who can run and can throw. He was abnormally good against pressure last year. And at some point, that's going to come back down to earth a little bit. He can still be an above average quarterback this year. There's zero doubt about that in my mind. But I doubt that he's going to be that MVP candidate like a lot of people are making him out to be. I think they finish above 500, but I don't see them making the playoffs either. Then in fourth place, the Raiders. I think this team's a dumpster fire. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe the Raiders cut ties from John Gruden this year, despite signing him to the $100 million contract. Listen, the defense was bad last year. They didn't make sizable improvements to it. In the offense, they lost one of their best weapons last year, Nelson Aguilar. Obviously, they still have Waller, they still have Jacobs, but their offensive line got so much worse this year. And that was the strength of the team because they let Derek Carr sit back all day and hit the guys deep, hit the guys across the middle. He's not going to have that luxury as much this year. And the holes are going to be clogged for Josh Jacobs, and they're going to be losing so much that they're not even going to be able to use him. Drafting a running back in the first round and then just letting your offensive line bail and having a crappy defense is the worst thing you can do when drafting a running back in the first round. It's just so fundamentally flawed, and they're going to be horrible.
All right, I have the Chiefs getting first in this division. I think that the Chiefs, they prioritized fixing that offensive line, and they completely revamped it. And Dom, I'm going to answer what you said. You don't know how they're going to look. Here's how they're going to look. Left tackle is going to be Orlando Brown. Left guard is going to be Joe Thuney. And then you're going to have center is going to be Creed Humphrey. Right guard, Trey Smith. Right tackle, Lucas Niang. So 3 rookies on the line to start the season. But this starting line in the preseason had, I believe, 52 total snaps, gave up, I think, 3 total pressures, 0 sacks, and were not penalized once. So the offensive line looked great throughout the preseason. I know it's preseason, blah, 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 but they looked really good. So I'm happy
Still
with
football.
that. The main question with me with the Chiefs is Mecole Hardman. Can Mecole Hardman develop enough to really take over that wide receiver 2 role to where he can actually be the guy to take attention off of Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce? Because when Sammy Watkins was healthy, he drew attention from defenses. Can Mecole Hardman be that guy? And can he get to the point where he can be a solid wide receiver 2? That's what it comes down to for the offense there. But I have the Chiefs going 14-3. Second place, I have the Chargers for one reason. And I think that when you look at this team, this is the best offensive line that they have had in a very long time. They really adjust that offensive line a lot. It's probably, I believe, a top 10 offensive line. And then the defense is getting back Bosa. And then they also have Derwin James coming back. I think that's actually a big get. It depends if he can stay healthy, of course. Health is a factor there. But if he can stay healthy, that defense, I think, has a lot of potential to be another top 10 defense. So I have them barely edging over the Broncos by 1 game. The Broncos defense is elite. I'm not going to doubt that. By far the best secondary on paper, and I believe will be the best secondary. My question is Teddy Two Gloves. I don't know how he's going to perform. It's if he can be an Alex Smith type guy, manage the clock, not turn over the ball, and just be average, then yeah, I think they will get second over the Chargers. But I don't know if I can say that at this time about Bridgewater. That's my only thing with them. And then fourth place, it's the Raiders. They are a dumpster fire, Dom. I think they should move on from Gruden. I think them letting go of Rodney Hudson was a horrible mistake. They let that offensive line go to the dump. It's horrible. They lost both Tyrell Williams, even though he was hurt last year, and Nelson Aguilar. And they didn't really make any sizable improvements on defense. So I really don't think that this team is good, and I think they're going to win 6 games at most. And
6 is generous.
Yeah. I originally had them winning 4. So but they always have that one fluke win. Last year was the Chiefs. Last division, the AFC East. How do we see this division shaking out? I know there could be some changes with the Patriots deciding to go with Mac Jones. So, Dom, go ahead and start this one out.
First place, it was easy. I'm going to go with the Buffalo Bills. I realize the Patriots are getting back and healthy, and this is their first, real shot at trying to defend their crown, because last year, the Patriots, a lot of guys opt out from the COVID season, but the Bills, they're the better team. They have the better quarterback. I think the Bills win this division, and I think they win it easily. Second place, I do have the Patriots. You guys all had the Patriots in second place last year. I had the Dolphins in second place. That's what happened. But this year, I see the Patriots getting back on top of the Dolphins. I think that the defensive reinforcements coming in with Delta Hightower, I think that it's going to be a lot better of a defense. I trust Bill Belichick now that they've had camp and they've had preseason to be better than what they were last year. I still think the Dolphins have a talented defense, but a lot of the stuff I've seen about Tua Tagovailoa has concerned me. I was so high on him coming out of college, looking like I was going to be wrong, but he's now had a preseason in training camp to work himself up because he didn't have that, one, coming off the injury, and two, coming just in the COVID year. But I just have been so confused and perplexed by everything I've seen from his teammates, from the coaching staff, from them trying to go out and get Deshaun Watson. It's just not good there. And then in fourth place, you obviously got the Jets. I think they have some talent here, but obviously doesn't compare to any of the other three teams in this division. Zach Wilson, he's going to show some flashy plays, but I don't think it's going to be enough to put this team in third place. So I'll have the Jets in fourth.
For me, yeah, the Bills are going to win this division. It seems pretty clear cut. It's just a battle for second and third at that point. And ultimately, we know what we're going to get. Josh Allen looks really good. That team's going to be at the top. And when it comes to the second spot, it's a toss-up. I definitely trust Bill Belichick more than anybody, but I do have the Dolphins because had they had Cam Newton, I would have had New England. It's just, although Mac Jones has looked good, the only sample size we have is preseason. That's not enough. It's a rookie quarterback. There is a lot of talent over there in Miami. The quarterback play with Tua is rather concerning. That's the ultimate thing holding them back from winning more than the 10 games I have them winning, because the rest of that team is really good. The defense is good. Xavier Howard, there were those rumors he wanted out. They settled things down. He's staying. That's a really big piece for them. I don't expect him to put up the same numbers, forces me turnovers as he did last year, but I do expect him to be a good piece of that team, which is going to be competitive. They're going to be second in that division, and I have New England third, and it's tough. Like, no matter how much I trust Bill Belichick, and no matter how many good players they're going to get back from COVID or just injuries, etc., it's just a little bit too much for me. I had my faith in them last year. It didn't work out. This is a different season, but it's a season where quarterback play is too much of a question mark for me, and I just can't ride with Mac Jones like that. Not yet. I got to see what he does in a full season of work and then be able to evaluate that team a little bit differently. Then there's the Jets, fourth in this division. They're going to be really bad. Zach Wilson could be a good prospect. I wouldn't be shocked if he looks good. It's just tough when he has not many resources out there, not good coaching staff, not good talent, bad O-line, not many guys to throw to. I mean, some of his top targets. I mean, Corey Davis, that's a good receiver that they were able to get in the offseason. Elijah Moore as a rookie, which, again, I feel very passionate about rookies and being really cautious with them and what they're able to do no matter what the position is. So there's not too much to like over there in New York. It's not a good situation for him in that environment.
For me, it's easy. The Bills are going to win this division. I have them going 13-4. I have the Patriots in second. I think that getting those guys back on defense, and then they made some additions on defense as well. They got Van Noy back, and they also added Matthew Judon. So I think that will help as well. Despite Stephon Gilmore being out to start the season, they still got J.C. Jackson, still got a talented secondary. So I really trust them. I like their offensive line as well. I think Mac Jones proved that he can take over, especially when Cam had to miss due to the COVID misunderstanding. He proved that he can take this team, and I'm going to trust Bill Belichick here. I have them getting in second. Third, I have the Dolphins. That defense is still really good. I just do not trust Tua. And they're not confident in Tua. So I think there's going to be a disconnect there, and I don't know what to think of Tua overall. Plus, they released their starting center, Matt Skura, and I think that offensive line did take a hit with that. So that's another thing to look at. Fourth place is the Jets. I have them going 4-13. I think that there's some talent there. They're young, but that offensive line is still not anything special. So I have them getting fourth in the division. All right. We have done our record predictions. Let's go through our playoff teams, starting with Dom. And in the NFC, who do you have? You're on mute, buddy.
You were right. I apologize. Top seed in the NFC, they will get the first round bye at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The other three division winners, Green Bay, the Rams, and the football team in that order. And the three wildcard teams I have is the Cardinals, the 49ers, and the Dallas Cowboys in that order.
For me in the NFC playoff picture, at number 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. At number 2, Los Angeles Rams. Number 3, Green Bay Packers. Number 4, Dallas Cowboys. And then over to the wild card teams that fell short of winning their divisions by only a game or two. I have the San Francisco 49ers at that 5th spot, Minnesota Vikings at 6, and the Washington football team at 7.
All right, for me, my 1 seed is the Buccaneers. 2 is the Packers. 3 is the Rams. 4 is the Cowboys. 5 is the Niners. 6 is the Seahawks. And 7 is the Vikings. All right, let's move over to the AFC. Dom, take it away.
So the 1 seed, I have your Kansas City Chiefs. 2 seed, Buffalo Bills. 3 seed, Cleveland Browns. 4 seed, the Indianapolis Colts. 5 seed, Baltimore Ravens. 6 seed, Parker's Denver Broncos. And the 7 seed, I have the Pittsburgh Steelers. No Titans in there.
All right. And then for me, I have at number 1, those Buffalo Bills. Number 2, the Kansas City Chiefs. Number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. Number 4, the Tennessee Titans. And then for those other teams being able to get into the playoffs, that's going to be at number 5, the Cleveland Browns. Number 6, my Denver Broncos. And number 7, the Miami Dolphins.
All right, my number 1 is my Chiefs. Number 2 is the Bills. 3 is the Browns. 4 is the Titans. 5 is the Ravens. 6 is the Chargers, but it would not shock me if it became the Broncos. And then 7, I have the Colts. All right, before we go into award predictions, Super Bowl predictions. Dom, I want you to go first.
Yeah, so I figured I'd just give my conference championships. I do have the Rams making it to the NFC Championship game. They will lose to the top-seeded Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I mean, I think you give Tom Brady that bye, he's going to be really hard to get. And I think that him finally having that year, we saw it last year, he's going to continue to play well. He's got those weapons. He's got that defense. The Bucs will be in the Super Bowl, and they will take on the Cleveland Browns in the Super Bowl. I think that Cleveland, they had an impressive postseason last year, throttling the Steelers and then hanging with the Chiefs on the road in Arrowhead. Obviously, limited crowd, and Mahomes went out early in that game. But I think the Browns could win this. I think that they might be the most complete team in the AFC, and I think the Browns just got that mojo. They're going to lose to the Buccaneers in the Super Bowl. The Buccaneers will be Super Bowl champions in Los Angeles, and I think Tom Brady has a Hollywood ending, winning back-to-back Super Bowls for the first time since when he won his first 2.
For me, that Super Bowl matchup, I think it's just so tough every year trying to figure these out. I would have to say, looking at this AFC playoff picture, I would go with Buffalo. I have high hopes for Josh Allen being able to do similar numbers to what he did last year. Another extra game added to the season being that 17, so a little bit better, I guess. But I think he's going to have an incredible season again. That team shown glimpses of what they can potentially do this year. And then ultimately I have them taking on Tampa Bay as well. So not the exact same matchup, but the same NFC team to make it out. There's just so much to go on with those Buccaneers that it wouldn't surprise me at all should they be able to make that difficult journey to return to the promised land in a game where ultimately I see the Bills winning. I think that when it comes to Josh Allen and the season he's going to have, I think it's going to translate to postseason success. We're going to see a huge run for him, and I think that the Bills are going to be able to pull it off. I think that they have the perfect roster to be able to compete with just about any team in this league, and it would be an incredible thing for Bills Mafia, as that would be a sight to see.
All right, my NFC Championship, I've got Bucs Packers once again, and I have the Bucs winning it. AFC Championship, I have Browns Chiefs. I have the Chiefs. I have a Super Bowl rematch, and this one I have the Chiefs winning. And before you say bias, let me give my history lesson of the day. Last year gave me just such a glimpse of the Royals from 2014 to 2015. Devastating Game 7 loss in the World Series. Come back and win. I have the Chiefs doing the same. Chiefs get their second Super Bowl in 3 years. I have history on my side here. Let's see if it happens again. All right, let's move on to award predictions. Let's start off with MVP. Dom, go ahead.
This is going to surprise you guys. And obviously, the talent is not the question with this guy. It's the injury concern. I'm going to roll Dak Prescott here as the MVP. I think this offense is going to put up very historic numbers this year. I think they're going to be in a lot of situations where they're going to have to pass the ball a lot. I think Dak Prescott throws for over 5,000 yards this year. And assuming that he stays healthy, which all the reports have said that he's going to do so, I think he wins MVP.
For me, it's going to be that guy that I just referenced, and that's Josh Allen. And it is fitting. It has to align. Like, if I think that this team can go on to win the Super Bowl, I have to be a believer that this team can be led by Josh Allen. He can put up similar numbers. There's a lot of critics of him. They want to see if he can repeat, and that they're valid. They can bring that up to see if he can make that leap. I saw some sort of stat where it was like quarterbacks to make, I think it was, and I could be wrong here, but I'm going to go with what I thought. It was quarterbacks to improve their completion percentage by 10% or more. It was a really weird group of not so good quarterbacks. So seeing leaps like Josh Allen had is historically not something that's a great sight to see. But I do think that ultimately he's going to do similar numbers to what he did last year, maybe even elevate his game. I don't see why not. He's got Stephon Diggs. Those two have an incredible connection. I see him putting up a lot of yards, and I see him definitely getting into the end zone. He's one of the most underrated mobile quarterbacks. He can get a lot of yards with his legs, and gets him out of really bad situations. So I see the season playing out very well for Josh Allen.
All right. I know you're going to say I'm biased. I have Mahomes.
It's Mahomes. It's not a biased pick.
And
you picking the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl isn't a biased pick.
Yeah, I just think that with a revamped offensive line, and Mahomes did not have the best season last year, and he was still in the MVP finalist category. I just think he's going to take it up another notch this year, and I think he's going to win it. I think he's going to regain that throne. Offensive Player of the Year. Who do we have? Dom, go ahead.
I have Prescott here again, so I already explained my logic.
For me, Offensive Player of the Year is an award that typically is a non-quarterback offensive thing. When you look at it, MVP is becoming a quarterback award typically. So that next best player who doesn't play the quarterback position is going to get it, in my opinion. And this year, it was between Devontae Adams and Darren Waller. We got a wide receiver and a tight end. While the Raiders are not going to be very good, I know Darren Waller is going to ball out, and he's going to be that one consistent receiver. He put up insane numbers last year. What he did was truly incredible for that Raiders squad. It didn't translate to winning, and that isn't really as significant as it is with MVP as far as how that's taken into account for voters. It's just a matter of him putting up crazy good numbers, which he's going to do. I could definitely see him breaking the tight end receiving yard record and putting up tons of touchdowns to go with it. I would be pretty shocked, to say the least, if he doesn't have a monster season.
I'm going with Alvin Kamara. I think that he's going to have a huge season this year. He has never had 1,000 yards rushing. I think he will reach that point. He had a career high last year, 932. I think he'll reach that, and it would not shock me if he got close to 1,000 yards receiving. I think that he's going to be the guy in New Orleans, especially with Michael Thomas out for an extended period of time. I think he's that guy. They're going to rely on him, and it would not shock me if he just has a career year and takes Offensive Player of the Year. Let's go over to Depoy. I know the obvious answer that we can all go with is Aaron Donald each and every year. But are you guys going with Aaron Donald?
I am, but I feel like some other good choices are Myles Garrett and TJ Watt, who are obviously both incredible. And I also think that a really good choice, and you're going to hear me gas up the Chargers here a little bit, Derwin James, because Derwin James is an incredible safety. He was injured last year. The way that Brandon Staley, the new Chargers head coach, runs his defense is it's a lot of safety-oriented stuff. Playing your best defender against one of their best players. Derwin James can play pass coverage. He can drop back in the run. He can do everything. And I think that he's going to be a big reason if the Chargers have any defensive success, it's going to be because of him. I don't think it's going to be as much Joey Bosa this year because this is their first year without Melvin Ingram. And I think that Joey Bosa could be seeing some more double teams than he has in the past because you can't afford to just double team him and then, leave Melvin Ingram one-on-one. You got to focus on both guys. But I think Derwin James is a really sneaky defensive player of the year candidate.
Defensive player of the year for me. And before I say mine, I have to say, like, Aaron Donald being like that defensive player of the year candidate is kind of like the same thing with the NBA with like LeBron and MVPs. Like, he is the most valuable at his position. He is the guy that hands down you would pick over just about anyone, no matter how good those other guys are, which they are. But ultimately, he's won it 3 times already. And I just think at some point it gets to the point where, like, the voters they don't want to see a guy win it a 4th time. They want to see another guy who had another really good season win it. There becomes some sort of little underlying bias that comes up. Otherwise, I too would pick Aaron Donald, but it is more of a fun pick to go off the rails a little bit. Not like this one would be too much, but like you mentioned, Myles Garrett. You just said his name. That was a guy on my radar, second to him, because if I had it my way, it would be Donald, but Myles Garrett is also a phenomenal edge rusher. He's going to put up some really good numbers for Cleveland, and it's going to be a really good Cleveland Browns team, so there's going to be a lot of eyes on him. More than typically for a Browns team. So I see him putting up good numbers, and I think that he wins. I think that this is a really good year for him to do it.
I'm going to have the other guy you mentioned, Dom, TJ Watt. Contract year. He is one of the best edge rushers, and I think he's going to have a heck of a season, and he's the focal point in that Pittsburgh defense. So I think he's going to have his chance at DPOY this year. Now let's move over to Offensive Rookie of the Year. Who do we have?
I'm going to go with the first overall pick, Trevor Lawrence. He's going to be throwing the ball a lot because the Jaguars are going to be losing. And the offense itself isn't horrible. The offensive line could use some work, but like we mentioned, the receiving core of Jones, of Chark, and of Shenault is pretty formidable. And he's going to have some guys that throw the football too. He's not going to be great all the time, but I think he's going to get abundance of passing yards and passing attempts, and as a result, passing touchdowns. So I think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, it's a boring pick, but I have it too. I mean, it's the smartest pick. I mean, the smart picks are typically the boring ones because they're not a hot take or anything like that. But it makes the most sense. The rookie touchdown record was set by Baker at 27. It was a record that stood for way longer than it should have after Peyton Manning had it for almost 2 decades. But I see it getting broken pretty soon after Baker just did it not that long ago. I can totally see a situation where he gets 28 or more and the team still isn't very good. They're not where they want to be and they lose a lot of games, but ultimately he's going to put up the numbers. He's one of the best prospects we've seen in quite some time, so it doesn't come as a shock. And when I just look at some of the other rookies, they just don't off the way he does to win this award.
Yeah, I'm going with Trevor Lawrence as well. Like I said earlier, and like Dom just said, he's got a formidable trio at the wide receiver position. He's also got James Robinson, and I think that that's going to be enough for him. It would not shock me if he broke the rookie passing touchdown record. It would not shock me if he did that because they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. So I have Trevor Lawrence as well. Next up, a tough award to predict. Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I'm going to go with Parker's first-round draft pick for the Broncos. I'm going to go with Patrick Surtain. I think that he's a very talented cornerback that is going to be one of the focal points of a very talented defense, like one of the best in the National Football League this year. And I think that's going to really send waves. Comparing defensive player stats, especially in terms of Rookie of the Year, always gets tough. And so it's going to be more of narratives. So if Surtain could be a lockdown quarterback for one of the best defenses in the league, I think he's going to have a good shot at winning Defensive Rookie of the Year.
I really like his odds, and I want to pick him. The only reason I can't is because that secondary is so good and there's so much depth that I don't see him consistently being on the field. I don't think Fangio runs packages where he's going to have him out there on every single snap. That's the problem. It's like it's a good problem to have. You want the secondary to be so good that your first-round pick and best corner in the draft can't see the field every single snap. But that's just the reality of it. That's the only reason I'm not picking him. He looked incredible in preseason. Again, take it with a grain of salt. But in his NFL performances so far at this point, he looked legit. He was as advertised. He was a stud at Alabama, one of the highest recorded players from PFF as far as corners go. So I do see him having an incredible season. I just think it will just barely not be enough because of those snaps that are going to limit him. And because of that, it's Jamin Davis. And I know that there's a lot of hype with him. This isn't exactly like some crazy pick to make. There's a lot to like on that defense over there in Washington. That D-line's insane. So he's not going to have to do too much surveying the field. He's pretty good in coverage. In fact, he was arguably the best coverage linebacker, maybe other than Jock. But I'd say a lot of people would lean towards Jamin in this situation. So that's my pick. But again, it could totally go either way because Surtain is that guy.
I'm going to go with Micah Parsons. And I think it's because he is going to have such an impact and have such a high snap count on that defense this year in Dallas. So I know that's really the boring pick, but I think he's just going to be one of those guys that is going to have such a huge impact on his defense in year one. So I'm going to go with Micah Parsons. Next up, in my opinion, this is a pretty obvious award, but comeback player of the year.
Well, I actually don't think it's that obvious. I mean, it's very obvious based on what my answers have been to previous awards that it's going to be Dak Prescott. But I think you can look at Saquon Barkley, and he's a very good candidate if he's one of the most dynamic running backs in the league. Like he's supposed to have been, and he plays like his rookie year. He could certainly win that award as well. I think Derwin James coming back, I already talked about him as a defensive player of the year candidate. He could be that too for comeback player of the year, but I do think it's Dak Prescott.
Yeah, there's so many guys who can get this. My pick is Von Miller, but I will say when it comes to Dak Prescott, should he have he wouldn't even have to have a crazy good season. Like if he just has like numbers you would expect out of that high-powered offense, he would get it because there is a narrative that plays a factor in this award. We've seen it with other guys. He had the most emotional injury
last year too.
Yeah, with Alex Smith to see him carted off the field. And I'm not, trying to be like some like terrible person and be like, oh,
right. No, we're not.
It's but like, that plays a factor that's been proven. So you wouldn't have to put up anything crazy for him to still get it. So I think that is probably the most logical choice. Again, it's also quarterback, the most valuable position. But I have Von Miller. I think he's one of those sneaky ones. I feel like a lot of people just like forget Von didn't play, which is kind of funny to me. But I do think he's going to put up some really good numbers. There's a concern with Bradley Chubb right now being questionable week one because of his ankle. So it's probably going to be him and Malik Reed on opposite ends. I see Von tearing it up. I feel like people forget how good he truly is when he's healthy. And should he be able to do that, I think that he's a really worthy candidate to win this award.
Reason I said it's obvious in my opinion, I have Dak. I think Dak is going to have a heck of a year coming back because that defense is going to put him in tough situations where they're going to have to throw the ball a lot. And he's got two great receivers in Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb, and then he's also got Michael Gallup. So I really expect a lot from him. Dom, it would not shock me if he surpassed 5,000 passing yards this year. So, and I think that he's going to have a big year, and I think he's going to be, let alone, I think the key reason why the Cowboys make the playoffs this year. So that's where I get comeback player of the year for Dak. And lastly, coach of the year.
I'm gonna go with Ron Rivera here. I think that he could lead that Washington football team to the playoffs when not a lot of people are projecting them to do so. I think that's really the difference. The coach of the year is always really hard to predict, but I'm gonna go with Rivera.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's funny. It's an award that I literally forget every time. Like, because when you said that we were going to be doing awards, I wasn't prepared going in. Like, I had these guys in my mind, but I hadn't had them typed up on some spreadsheet or anything, and just was able to put those guys together. When it comes to this award, though, I mean, there's so many guys that could get it. I don't know, because like there's teams where like you had the Cowboys where they sucked without Dak Prescott. That team sucked. So like McCarthy, who is definitely not a guy that should get that kind of award, could maybe get it. I'm not necessarily saying that's my selection, but that's definitely a worthy candidate. I mean, I'm just looking down the list. Let's be bold. We'll say he wins it. Again, disclaimer, don't think a coach like McCarthy should win it because he would not be the reason for that team having success. But if the Cowboys go on to be the number one team in that division and they make the playoffs as one of those top seeds, people will consider it, I guess.
If you remember, I picked McCarthy to win it last year, and that blew up in my face. Well, it didn't help that Dak got hurt, but it did blow up in my face. Dom, I'm going with Sean McVay.
All right, let's go.
I think that he is going to get it because he finally has a quarterback that he wants with a great IQ, and I think he's going to lead that team to a division title in the best division in football and the toughest. So I think that you're going to see the Rams have a great season, and I think Sean McVay is going to win Coach of the Year. Oh, I was thinking Don was going to say something.
I mean, I like it. I think he's got a shot, but I also think it'd be kind of cheap to take a coach who has led his team to the playoffs 3 out of the 4 years, and then he wins the division and with one of the best quarterbacks in the league, and then he gets Coach of the Year. But
yeah, I mean that's
it could,
the only reason
it could happen. But
radar.
yeah, but Coach of the Year's, like I mentioned, a really weird award.
Yeah. All right, that'll end this episode, the first episode in probably around 4-5 months. It is great to be back with you guys. Next time we will have Mr. Fortuna. Next week we will start our Pick'em standings. We'll have to come up with a new punishment this year because
Pat hasn't even done his punishment. So.
Oh, Pat is going to do his punishment very soon, but he's probably going to have to do 2. It's my prediction. I'm coming for your title this year, Dom.
Yeah,
you said that last year.
Award prediction.
And I was very close. I got second. I was close.
You're trailing by 5 games.
I tanked big time for this season, so I'm ready now. Ooh.
All right, we'll start that next week. We will be live on Blaze and on StreamYard and YouTube on Monday from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Arizona time. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We will see you in less than a week.